In this video, we're going to look at the 5 biggest mistakes that I feel public land hunters make that absolutely destroy hunts. Hi, I'm Adam Lewis with DeerIQ.com and the Deer IQ Podcast. So we're going to look at these 5. Now there's probably way more than 5, and I've thought of a few since these, but these are really 5 big ones that I personally have made as a public land hunter. And I've been hunting exclusively public land, or mostly public land, since about 2010, in Michigan mostly, but also in other states. And I see other guys making them all the time. So if you can eliminate these 5, if you identify that you do them and can eliminate them, they're really gonna help up your success when you're public land hunting. All right, so let's get to the 5. The first one is competing. A lot of hunters get caught up in the competition of it when other hunters get involved in the same hunting land. And it's really easy to do. You see guys going into certain areas and you want to hunt there. And so it almost invokes this urge in you to have to hunt there too and kind of outdo them. And the problem is when you do this, all you're doing is adding extra pressure to that area and actually destroying the chances for both you and the other person. And where this comes from is kind of a scarcity mentality. And the reality is that if you look at a section of public land, there's only a few prime locations. Not all of it is equal. So there's a few spots that are really the best spots. And most guys tend to gravitate toward those naturally. And if a few guys are doing that, all of a sudden you're overpressuring this spot. So what should you do? Avoid those areas. Quite simply, if other guys are pressuring it, you're noticing a bunch of trucks in a parking lot or tracks where people are parking there, bowling ball like paths where people are walking back to a certain section, they're adding pressure already. So why would you want to hunt there? So at all costs, avoid the competition. All right, number 2. Okay, number 2, I had a hard time squeezing it in, but is hunting where other hunters' sign is located. So you see other hunters' sign there, but you still hunt there. Let's look at an example. Let's say you e-scouted this area, you've been eyeing it for a while, it looks good, you really want to check it out and hunt there. So you go back and you scout this spot. Maybe you have to walk a ways, maybe it's half a mile or more from where you parked, and you get back there and you start seeing some good sign. You see some rubs, some scrapes and things, and you start getting excited about it, and then all of a sudden you see the inevitable other hunter sign. Maybe you see some tracks, or you did on the way in, you kind of ignored them. Or you see a stand set up there, and not an old stand, but from this year, you can tell that. And then maybe you see a trail camera or something like that, or even ones that are, you have to pay attention for mobile setup sign. So you see some claw marks in a tree that look fresh where someone has climbed up and used sticks or something like that. As soon as you see this, again, you might be tempted because of the psychology of, I put a lot of effort and I really want to. You get emotional about a spot. I really want to hunt here. But when you see that, you need to just leave. The reality is if other hunters have been hunting that spot, it's already blown out. That sign was there before those hunters started hunting it. It just looks still fairly fresh, but those deer have already been pressured. They're probably most likely now nocturnal or kind of not using that area anymore. And so it's just a waste to hunt there if you see other hunters' sign. So as soon as you see that, cut your losses and move on to somewhere else. You can find somewhere else better. Okay, number 3. Number 3 is going deep, or assuming that going deep into public land, assuming that that's where the big bucks live. And this is a tough one because this has been taught to us the last 20, 30 years as the secret. The secret. Right? And so the secret you've heard maybe in articles or podcasts or things like that is going deep. Going deep is where the big bucks go in these swamps or whatever it might be. And they may be there, but the reality is that now everybody knows this. So everybody knows where these spots are. I call this the Disneyland mentality. And I actually have a free public land guide with 8 new approaches from experts that I talk to and things that I agree on them with. And this is one of them, is avoiding the Disneyland mentality that going deep somewhere is going to be this magical place. But now, because the secret's out, when you get there, you actually see a lot of other hunter sign because everybody knows and goes to these places. I'm not saying that you shouldn't check them out at all, but if you see other hunter sign, you need to avoid those. And because of apps now and GPS maps, those spots stick out like a sore thumb. So if you see it easily on a map, someone else did too, and they're probably going to be there. Okay, if you like this video so far, I invite you to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss any of our other videos. We also have a podcast for those that are really serious about deer hunting. Also, like I said, we have a free public land hunting guide, 8 new approaches to beat the crowds and find success. That's linked below, and it goes into detail about 8 of these things. One of them is the Disneyland mentality, but there's 7 others that it goes into detail about. So if you're interested in that, that's also linked below. Check that out. Okay, and now back to number 4. Okay, number 4, this is getting a little crowded here, but number 4 is hunting bad sign, in particular old sign. It's really common and sometimes hard to figure out how old sign is, whether it be tracks, maybe a scrape when that was made, maybe rubs you're seeing, and it's very easy to get caught up in thinking, seeing this sign and getting really excited and automatically hunting it. But the reality is you need this sign to be super fresh, especially on public land, for the deer to actually still be right there and using that spot. So you really do need to get good at reading sign, like what is really fresh versus a few days old versus a few weeks old. Just because you see a rub or see a scrape doesn't mean it's currently being used or even in daylight. And so you want that sign that's super fresh, that's in an area where you might see deer in daylight. That's what you want to hunt, and you need to get good at identifying what's fresh and what isn't. Okay, number 5. Number 5 is hunting in the open. This is a big mistake I see a lot just walking through the woods. When you see stands set up in public land in these wide open areas, that is a key indication to me that you're not going to see deer, and if you do, they're just going to be young deer. So in public land where it's pressured, deer avoid open areas in the daylight. If you see sign there, it's probably made in the dark, and hunting it just doesn't make sense. You're not going to see the deer that made that. By open spots, I mean anywhere that you can easily walk through and that you can see more than 10 yards. So you really need to look for really dense, thick, high stem count areas to have more success and actually see deer, and especially mature deer, mature bucks, in daylight. You've got to have that thick area, and hunting in the open just doesn't make sense. It's not going to lead to success. Another way that hunting in the open is a mistake is if where you're hunting, whether it be on the ground or in a tree, is wide open. I've literally watched deer come through the woods and start looking up in trees because it's so pressured, and they're trained to look in trees for hunters. And so they're looking for blobs, they're looking for things that are sticking out to them. So you really need really good cover so you don't get picked off, even in a tree, and definitely on the ground. All right, those are my 5. If you think I missed something, go ahead and comment below what you think should be on the list that I didn't put there. Also, if you got something out of this video, share it with a buddy that you think might benefit. And I'll see you on the next Deer IQ High IQ Topics video.